Hello, everybody. This is Bilal with the linear programming model through Solve software and Excel. I would like you to pause the video and just go through the problem right here so you can just understand what's going on with this problem. Okay, I'm sure if you get that. So I'll just go through the problem once again. A trust officer at Bloxburg National Bank needs to determine how to invest $100,000 in the following collection of bonds to maximize the annual return. So from here we know that this is a maximization problem. The investor wants to maximize the annual return by investing $100,000 in these bonds A, B, C, D, and E that has the annual return percentage, maturity, some of them are long-term and short-term, similarly high risk and low risk, and some of them are tax-free and some are not. And the officer has some constraints, some conditions that says right here the officer wants to invest at least 50% of the money in short-term issues and no more than 50% in high-risk issues, and at least 30% of the funds should go on tax-free investments, and at least 40% of that total annual return should be tax-free. So from this, we're going to formulate the model, the linear programming model, and then we're going to then I'm going to show you how to solve the software in order to solve this problem. So I just created this table right here just to not to waste time because I want the video to be as short as possible. So we have added this column here, investment amount. And we're gonna put the software is gonna put the money for us to invest in each of these bonds. And here I have this 0 and 1 for a long term. For example, if the bond is long term, I put 0. If it's not short term, put 1. Similarly, if it's high risk, 1. If it's low risk, it's 0. It's just to let the software know that this is high, this is low, since the software can't read the text that we have here. And similarly, if it's tax free, we put yes 1. If it's not, we put 0. And here, this is the total investment amount. Total investment amount is basically sum of all the money that we have invested on, that we are going to invest on each bond. So this, and here we're going to determine how much to invest on short-term bonds. So you're going to use the function sum product. You can do that manually too if you don't want to use the sum product. The manual will be equal sign this cell multiplied by this plus this multiplied by here the amount of money that we're going to invest on bond B, and similarly you can do for the rest of the bonds, but since it's a long process, so I would rather use the sum product function, and similarly you can use the sum product function for all of them. So I'm going to use it sum product comma. This is the required amount that we said in the problem. 50% of 100,000 is 50,000. Similarly, 50% of 100,000, 50,000. And here we say 30% should be at least tax-free. So 30% of 100,000 is 30,000. And the annual total return would be this, the amount of money investment on bond multiplied by the annual return percentage, and would give us the annual return. Since we have a multiple investment, then we're gonna add up all those returns. So for that, I'm also going to use some product function. Enter. And here the tax-free return. So we're going to determine which are our tax-free bonds. Tax-free bond is bond A, bond B, and bond D. So here the percentage of return of bond A multiplied by the investment amount plus percentage of bond B multiplied by its investment amount plus percentage of bond D multiplied by its investment amount. In here, this is the 40% total, 40% of total annual return that we say it should be tax-free. So I'm gonna take the total return multiplied by 0.4, which is gonna give us the 40%. So our table is ready. Now we can use the Solver software. If you haven't used the Solver software, you can find Solver software from going to the menu, file menu, the options, and here in add-ins, Excel add-ins, you can add in Solver software if you haven't used it. If you've used it, you will find it here in your data menu in Solver. So I'm gonna click this. So the objective of our cell is the annual return. So I'm gonna click this in this here. Our problem maximization problems, since we want to maximize our annual return. But if it was cost problem, then we would have definitely would have minimized the cost. And our changing cells or these cells. Okay, and here we're going to add our constraints. Remember, we had a few constraints, so I'm going to add those constraints here. What was our first one? Our first one was here, 50%. At least 50% of the money should go, of the investment fund should go to short terms. So I'm gonna get this one should be greater or equal to this 50%. That's why I put down these numbers here. But if you don't want to put these numbers in your table, you can just write those numbers here. I'm gonna add that, and similarly, another constraint was that at least 50%, no more than 50% should go on high risk. So I'm gonna take this cell, less than or equal to this cell. I mean 50,000. Then I'm gonna add that. And third, we say that at least 30% of the fund should go on tax-free. So I'm gonna take this, greater or equal to this. I'm gonna add that. And one thing else, that all of these should be either 0 or greater than 0, because we don't want to invest from our pocket into bond. So it's called non-negativity constraints. So you're gonna select all of these. It should be at least 0. We either investing on it or either we're not investing. If we're investing, how much we're investing, definitely that's more than 0. If we're not investing on it, so it should be just 0. And then we're gonna add that. And one thing else, this cell, the total investment, which is some of these, should be only equal to $100,000, which is this one. So some of these should be equal to total available funds. So yeah, another of our constraint is that this cell, the total tax free return should be always, okay, my bad, we have to go to constraints, add another constraint. This cell should be always greater or equal to this cell. And then we press OK. And just to make sure everything looks good. OK. And OK. So here, if we invest $20,339 of our $100,000 on bond A and this amount on bond B and $29,661 on bond C, and we do not invest any money on bond D and this amount on bond E, that will give us the maximum return of $8,898 annually, from which the tax-free return would be this much, the amount that we have invested on tax-free bonds, and the total 40% of this amount is tax-free, which is $3,559. And the total amount that we have invested on tax-free bonds are 40,678. Similarly, 50,000 on high risks and 50,000 on short-term investments. Thank you for watching the video, and you have a great day.